Ja. Hm? Was denn? Das weiß ich nicht mehr.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to get us started. Welcome. My name is Kelly Jazvac, and I'm filling in for Maya Ray Oppenheimer today, who is unable to attend. I'm feeling like I have a big shoes to fill. Maya is such an amazing host, but I will do my best to be as sparkly as I can. But I'd like to begin by acknowledging that Concordia University is located on unceded Indigenous lands. The Greenock Nation is recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather today. Johannes Montreal, please come in. Johannes Montreal is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations, and today it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect the continued connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Montreal community. And secondly, a blurb about SECA. Conversations in Contemporary Art is a free event series sponsored by Concordia University Studio Arts MFA program. The series provides a unique opportunity to hear artists, designers, critics, writers, educators, and curators share their practices and perspectives. Back on campus, after being fully online since winter 2020, and we are using a hybrid format to connect with remote audiences with our programming. And from here, I'm going to pass it off to Alyssa Stokvis-Hauer.
Thank you, Kelly, and thanks everyone for being here today. Also a big thank you to Maya Oppenheimer as well as Sika for inviting us for this talk. So my name is Alyssa Stokvis-Hauer, and I'm the Artistic Director at the Museum of Jewish Montreal. And I'm going to just take a moment to tell you guys a little bit about the museum. Some of you may have not heard of us or may not have visited us since pre-pandemic. And to introduce the exhibition that we are about to open, which myself and my colleague Austin Henderson are curating with the speakers today, Johannes and Sophia. So the Museum of Jewish Montreal was founded in 2010, and it was initially a digital project, but the museum takes an innovative approach to museology, and we act as a place to connect with Jewish life, where we share the diverse history and heritage of Montreal's Jewish people and create new cultural experiences. And what that means is we do a variety of programming and initiatives. We don't actually have a permanent collection. So we lead historic neighborhood walking tours in the Plateau and the Mile End. We run a microgrants program for young creatives to bring their ideas to life. We have a research fellowship in the summer where we train people on Montreal's Jewish history. We have food workshops, cultural events, and of course, contemporary art exhibitions, both with emerging and established artists. So we began exhibiting contemporary art in 2016, which coincided with our move from the digital world into the real world in our first physical space on Duluth and Saint-Laurent, which is in the heart of Montreal's historic Jewish neighborhood. And it was in that space that we initially invited Johannes and Sophia to exhibit their work, which was meant to open in May 2020. And I'm sure you can realize that didn't quite go as planned, but 2 years later, and now moved into a new and much larger space on Fairmount and Saint-Laurent, we're very excited to finally be bringing their work to Canada for the first time with their exhibition, Public Intimacy, which opens next Thursday. We're in the middle of install right now, so it's a very exciting time. Public Intimacy comprises of interactive textile installation and photography, and it takes its title from its exploration of the liminal ground between public and private spaces. So playing on the idea of pulling or drawing back the curtain, Johannes and Sophia have constructed their work from secondhand curtains and drapes, which had once invite exploration and disorientation from visitors, all the while teasing the tension between individual freedom and social responsibility. I won't go too much more into that because I'm sure that Johannes and Sophia have more remarks to say, but I hope that you get the chance to come see the exhibition. It'll be open October 13th until January 22nd. And I'm going to hand it back to Kelly.
So to give you a sense of the structure of the talk, it will be about 50 minutes and it'll be followed by a half-hour question and answer period. And those coming in through the webinar can ask questions through the chat and I will moderate them. So I'd like to introduce now Sophia Hirsch and Johannes Mundinger. They are continuously collaborating on murals, installations, and exhibitions, completing such projects for institutions and cities within Europe, as well as Mexico, Korea, and Israel to date. Sophia Hirsch is based in Berlin, Germany, and she studied and graduated from the Weißensee Academy of Art, Berlin, and the University of Art and Design, Halle. She has also studied the Bezalel Academy of Art in Jerusalem. Johannes Mundinger is also based in Berlin. He graduated from Münster School of Design, and his exchange studies led him to the Academy of Fine Arts, Brussels. They have worked with institutions such as the Museum Kunsthal in Wilhelmshaven, the Jewish Museum Krakow, and the Yeoju Museum in Korea. In 2013, they won the jury prize for the Berliner Kunstverein for their installation Kritisch Masse, and were invited as artists in residence at the Art Cube Artist Studios, Jerusalem, Yeobak Sewon, Ginggu-do, Korea, and Begenhugen Gymnitz. Thank you, and please join me in welcoming Sophia and Johannes.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly and Alyssa, and sorry for the hard words. To give a little overview, we introduce ourselves a tiny bit, and then we'll mainly speak about collaborative works among us and in general. And I hand over to Sophia.
Okay, let's go over to our first presentation, because I'm going to start by presenting my own work, and then Johannes will talk about his work, and then we'll talk about our collaboration. How do I do that? Okay. So my work is right now mainly centered on comic or graphic novel work. So this is a graphic novel I did some years ago, which I researched, wrote, and drew myself. It's called Jak Isaac, and it's a story of a man I personally knew, a concentration camp survivor who went through different camps. And what was interesting for me in this story was that afterwards he decided to return to Germany, where he was born, and live among all the other Germans and among the perpetrators. And this is basically what this book is about like past trauma, about dealing with the post-traumatic stress disorder or not dealing with it, talking about memory and not talking about it. And those questions are very important in this graphic novel. This is a book that was published last year, a graphic novel. It's called Ernst Busch, der letzte Prolet. It's only in German, and it's a biography about singer and actor who was very communist. Actor was very close to Bertolt Brecht, Hans Eisler, and this kind of grew up in this scene of very modernist, very avant-garde artists and playwrights, and he it's a graphic novel about his life. My initial training, so I did study design and illustration, but my initial artistic education was in fine arts. So I'm a painter, and this is one of my works when I used to work as a painter. As you can see, it's figurative work that also includes abstract elements, but it's mainly figuration. And this is kind of something that I'm still doing when I collaborate with Johannes. And maybe you can.
My way was a bit the other way around. I've studied illustration back then, worked as an illustrator for a time, but also always organized exhibitions and painted walls and myself. So this show a bit of studio work that I do, but then we also go on to other things outside. As you see, it's painting. Also, I tried to extend the painting. As you see, that's not just a thing flat on the wall, but somehow includes the space, because I like if it goes a bit beyond. Not here. Then another thing that I explored last year is painting on glass. On glass. and it's somehow the opposite of painting process, because it's more about removing and adding and removing, because I paint from the back, I scratch away. So yeah, float through this field, discover this one. And then another big passion, I'd say, is painting walls outside. We also show some more. And I'm stopping.
Maybe you should say something about where this is.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is located in Korea. I've been there a few years ago, just before the pandemic, for a residency. I was invited to paint this wall. It's the dormitory of an alternative school. So I also thought I refer a tiny bit to this, like just as a school, I give a kind of frame, but then you have to fill the rest of your own imagination or life. And one more that was painted in Germany. And also what you see here, there's a lot going on already. A lot of structure is on the wall. So I also enjoy to picking up things aesthetically or historically, or as with the one before, like the usage of this certain building. And that's also where we met somehow, is on the wall.
Yeah, so this is one of our quite early, it's from 2016. It's one of our biggest common projects. And yeah, we traveled through different cities in Europe and painted big murals. And this is one in Kiel am Rhein, a very small city, very close to the French border, to Strasbourg. And yeah, we painted this work together, kind of as a commission for an organization called Club Voltaire. And yeah, it was like, it's something, I think in this work, we choose to show this because it kind of is a very good example for this tension that often arises when like we work together, because there's this imbalance, especially if you work in public, if you have people passing by while you're still in the process of working and your work's not ready, people reacting to your work and things like that, that you often notice that like the figurative part of the work is considered the important thing, like the main message, the main thing of your work, while the abstraction often is not considered as important. And this is something that is difficult, like if one person works figuratively and the other person works in an abstract way. And so we're struggling quite a bit with this wall to finally solve this. So I think it's a little maybe difficult to understand on the first glance, and this is kind of also what we wanted. It's called Odysseus und die Dialektik der Aufklärung, which refers to a book by Adorno and Horkheimer. And the title in English is maybe Odysseus and the Dialectics of Enlightenment or something like this. I don't know exactly how the book title translates. And yeah, we picked this scene from the Odyssey, where Odysseus gets himself tied to the part of the ship, I don't know. And in order to listen to the sirens. And this is a very important image in this book that also refers to the idea of enlightenment and kind of brings the whole thing back to Voltaire. Here we try to kind of create a balance between the abstract and the figurative, but it's still, it's always kind of a challenge when we work together. And so I wanted to show another work that we did a little bit later, and it was in a way, sorry, kind of a revelation for us, because we had to use a different technique here. We didn't choose this technique. It was basically, it came to us from the organization of this festival in Magdeburg. In a former prison, they organized this mural festival. And out of some reason, they didn't get the permission to have permanent murals there. And so they said all the murals need to be on paper and like pasted on the walls. And so we kind of had to prepare the papers in our studios, or this is what we did, and then kind of collage them together, which was very challenging and very weird also. But it was also a very interesting process for us. Yeah. And yeah, this is like the mural we did outside, and the other one you saw was like inside one of the prison cells. This was actually a starting point for a new technique of working together that we continued using, for example, in this exhibition that we participated in also together in Wilhelmshaven, in the Kunsthalle Wilhelmshaven. Sorry. And this is also again a collage that we did. And yeah, we painted on paper in the exhibition and then cut it apart and collaged it together quite spontaneously. Yeah, the topic of this work initially was kind of centered around the topics of masculinity in the graffiti scene. And then another thing that also came in was the city of Wilhelmshaven, which was very interesting, which is something that often happens when we work, that we try to include something, some context from the city, from the history of the city.
And also this exhibition was like they invite a lot of street artists and graffiti artists from all over Germany to show a bit what they do. And so we saw this connection, like in the graffiti scene, it's a lot about male dominance and about like being the best and toughest. And also in the city of Wilhelmshaven, it's city, like an army city where there's Marines are there. So it's also the history of the city itself has the same thing. So we chose all these pictures of like this masculinity and showing off and being best and blah, 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 and cut it apart and assemble it on the wall.
Yeah, and that's also yeah, and there's also some of the military things that you can find in the picture. It's like, yeah, it's quite small, this image, but there are those references, and this is also why we choose the title, Das Trockene und das Feuchte, which refers to a book by Jonathan Littell, The Sec Illumide, which is also about this, yeah, context of war and masculinity. And yeah, the same technique was used again in a project that we did last year in the city of Chemnitz. Chemnitz is a quite remote city on the very eastern border of Germany. And well, we were invited for a residency there where we stayed for 4 weeks and then participated in this exhibition. I had time to prepare the exhibition. And it was actually quite an interesting process. Sorry. Because we went there, we had never been, none of us had ever been in Chemnitz before. Maybe if you heard about Chemnitz, it's probably because there were like right-wing extremist riots in 2018, like racist riots by neo-Nazis. And this is actually, yeah, what kind of the city is infamous for. And so, yeah, it was interesting to come there to see other sides of the city and to also do some more research, because the project here was to do interviews. Like the work is called Homo Faber, so this idea of human beings as creative, as people who work, who create things, who produce things. And Chemnitz was a very productive city before 1989, so before the reunification of East and West Germany. It was a city where there was a lot of heavy industry. And yeah, when the two parts of Germany were reunited and the East became capitalist, a lot of the factories and a lot of the industry was closed, which led to a very, very high rate of unemployment. And we decided to explore this specificity of the city and to talk to residents of Chemnitz who had been unemployed in this time, and to explore what this experience meant to them and what happened and how it changed them.
And also being unemployed is seen as a really bad thing, like it's always your fault, you're lazy, you're ignorant, but actually it just happens sometimes. And then also being unemployed doesn't mean like you stop doing things. Like a lot of people, they developed a lot of interesting things. Or
we kind of also wanted to question the idea of work as only wage labor, kind of, but that there are also other kinds of work that can be done without being employed. And this was something that we wanted to research. It was, I think, for both of us, was also quite an emotional process, hearing all those biographies that people told us, and their personal feelings and things. And in the corner, you can see like a little booklet that we made with the interviews. And out of those interviews, we created images. Like, we drew pictures, figurative ones, abstract ones that came into mind that refer to certain aspects of the stories that people told us. And yeah, created this collage also in an abandoned building, was also used for an industrial purpose, and that is empty today. Yeah. Yeah, and this working with people is something that happens a lot on the one hand side when you paint murals, because there's always interaction with like the people in the city who just walk by. But we also do projects. This is a project I did on my own, which is called Stadtgeschichten, and I did it in a neighborhood, kind of yeah, a little bit poorer neighborhood with like a lot of those buildings that were built up in the 70s and 80s in GDR time, with people who lived there, talking about their lives, talking about their neighborhood. And yeah, it's always in this process when you work with people, when you work with a community, that is always hard to tell, like what is the process, what is the way of getting to the final artwork, and yeah, what is more important? Is it the process or is it the final work? And in this yeah, in this example, I think I initially planned to like do a big collage, yeah, with the photos that I took on this side, and with the yeah, talks and conversations I had with the residents there. But I ended up feeling that the work I finally did in the end wasn't as important as the process I had with those people, those conversations. Like I went there several times. I got to know each and every one of those people who participated in the project very well in their lives. And I now feel that, like, yeah, this is actually for me of more of an importance than the final work that I showed in a little exhibition. And
maybe I take this one. It's easier. It is a project I did this year in Germany. I applied for funding. I got a grant to realize this project. I tried to hide these guys. Oh no, didn't work. I was driving around the countryside looking for these barns to paint them. And this was also what the grant was about, that I go to countryside, paint these barns, and that's the thing. And it sounds super easy, but it turned out it was super complicated, because first I had to find them. A lot of them don't exist anymore, so it was a lot of driving. Then I had to figure out the owners and see, yeah, to whom it belongs. And the hardest part was to convince the owners that this random guy comes and paints something weird on their property. And luckily some said yes, and I could do. And then I was also talking to them about their lives, or their life over there, but also the usage of this certain building, what it's about. And yeah, I got to learn about the environment, also the change over there. So this actually, it's from a butcher's family, and they grow the wheat in front or around this house to feed their animals. They kill sadly later. So also included that. What you see this bubbly thing here is actually a microscopic picture of a wheat plant, and you have this kind of drawing of a land machine here.
And yeah, I think what's interesting about this work is also very much like the exchange, like bringing the fine art very much out of like the regular context of fine art or contemporary art, which is often like gallery spaces, but bringing it to people who are initially not interested in abstract painting or in contemporary art, and like having this conversation and this exchange of which is, I think, also a very important part of this project, right?
Yeah, that's true. It also led to interesting conversations, also like beforehand, before painting anything, but also while I was painting, when sometimes people pass by. And yeah, for sure, also the thing to bring such to a totally different space. And then on the other hand, when it's there finally, I think it's super neat, because it somehow always looks good. Maybe it doesn't even have to be painted, this wall, it just looks nice. It is, so if you paint it, it's even nicer. And yeah, so these nice photos. And then back to more collaboration right on site. This is a project I initiated in Berlin a few times, that I just invited people out of this wall painting scene. So we met like 10, 15, 20 artists at the time. to just collaborate on one wall during one day. And what's also interesting here was that you totally have to give up your ego. Like sometimes you concentrate on a certain spot for an hour, and then another person comes and just paints over because you think it's better for the whole picture. So yeah, you have to give up this authorship and yeah, your own thing, but still find a balance with all these people and all that. So it's also super inspiring, and was yeah, it's always a really nice experience all together. And then this is another project with other artists, but totally different. It's right when the pandemic started, there was the first lockdown in Germany, and together with this guy, Daniel Hahn, we initiated this online project where we collected exhibitions that couldn't take place because in the very beginning, no one knew what was going to happen. Some exhibitions were closed, some not. So we founded this website that is here and collected these exhibitions that couldn't take place. So for every exhibition, we asked one picture, like we just invited artists and asked them to send us the information. So you could have a whole overview, but also like kind of playful thing. You can scroll through, but the nice thing is you can also zoom in and enlarge an image to have it like screen filling, so you can really experience the exhibition or a certain work, and then you have some extra dots with extra information about the certain exhibition. And it was super nice because everyone was sitting at home, got nothing to do, and also we get sent a lot of photos, and for a lot of artists, this was also some way to still show some things happening or what they would do. So we also got some attention, and yeah, feel invited to scroll through once you're home. And then, like, we founded a space. When things slowly opened up, we also started initiating some exhibitions where we invited artists from our online archive. So the first one, we hijacked the park in Berlin and just brought works there, or the artists, for one day. Then another one was when the next lockdown came, we invited people that do video work to send us videos. So we projected them on a shopping window somewhere in a street, so you could just see it without having to enter space or without having to be inside. Or this was another project where we asked 5 artists to send us their work. And then it was quite a kind of lottery because this exhibition wasn't in public space. It was in private homes, and also only for the certain person that won this exhibition. It was also a traveling exhibition. It took place 3 times in 3 different places. So yeah, 3 lucky winners were chosen to have the works at their home. We brought them to them. And it was also interesting to see how different the people reacted on it. So the first like couple that got these works, they asked us to curate the show. So we went through their apartment, looking for walls, looking for places where to put them. The second one, she just took the work, said goodbye, and we had to leave. And then the third one, he also hung them up with us, and he invited us for a finissage. He made dinner and all that. Part of it was also that we came with champagne and to classes, so people had the whole exhibition ready. And it was also, as I said, it wasn't like a public thing, so it was really for them on their own. They could invite people, but we didn't tell the address or anything like that. It was really, yeah, this, yeah, about that. And then next step, this Raum WWW project. Raum means space in German. That's where the name comes from. Because after a year of pandemic, I've been asked 1,000 times how artists are doing with the pandemic, how it is, how they feel, and how it works financially. And so we initiated this project where we asked all the artists we had on the website. We sent them 4 questions. I can also pass this around. We have the book here if someone's interested. Yep. Yeah. And so we made these short interviews, or these 4 questions, and yeah, collected them in this book, and also made an exhibition. Like we asked the artists to send either text or voice message. And so we had an exhibition. It was kind of interactive. You could walk through, you could listen to the answers, or you could just read them. They were projected, and some statements were picked out. And Sophia is just showing, this is also leading to the question, is this like, where am I as an artist person? Is this still like art, or is this a creational, curatorial, thank you, work, but maybe it doesn't even matter. I think it's as long as it's interesting, it's good. Is there anything else? No. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
So thank you very much for that fascinating talk. I will open it up to questions now, and also those in the webinar, please feel free to use the Zoom. And don't worry, I've got a question prepared if no one has a question ready yet and you need a second to think about it. Actually, I have 2 questions prepared, so you have lots of time. How's the chat, Austin? Okay, I'm just going to jump into my questions. My first one is about abstraction in public space, and for you, what happens when you bring abstract painting out of the white cube into public space?
At first, I think it's always easier maybe to work in public space, because there's something there already. If you work inside in a white cube, it's all about the work, but outside it always refers to something, or there's something already, so it makes it easier. And then with abstraction, it depends. Like for example, once I've been to Mexico, and at that time I was questioning painting a bit, or my painting process. It was somehow at the point where I thought, like this painting in the end, it's just decoration. You paint something, can even look super ugly. You hang it in the gallery or the museum and it just looks nice, or it's art and it's, oh wow, that's art. And so as yeah, somehow circling around this point, and one's first try solution was to remove the image. So the main motif was just blank, just on the edges there was something painted. And I painted a wall with this motif in Mexico, and lots of people were like, what's that? I don't understand. Or it was super strange. Why I think in Berlin, there's so much going on everywhere, like no one would have questioned. But in Mexico, or it's my personal impression, don't know. But in Mexico, most of the walls I've seen, they were totally figurative. There were faces of beautiful women and really colorful. So this was something different. So it was actually also nice that it raised some questions and some discussions. Yeah. And then also in the countryside, I painted a wall this year in a little village where a friend got the house. I painted the facade, and there was one man, he passed by a few times on his bicycle and was always like, no, like this. And someone, he approached me and said, that's, you know what we call it, degenerated art. That's how you say. And, but we discussed a bit. I was also interested like in his, I don't know, opinion, or see if I could change something. So we also found some points we could agree, but yeah, he kept his opinion. But yeah, that's that section. So sometimes it's interesting because yeah, it raises emotion or discussion, or something happens. But yeah, in a lot of places it's just as it is, and it's nice. It's okay. Yeah.
Question. Excellent.
Well, it's more like a comment and a question. Well, I just really like how your art kind of invades the space of the outside, where art had only been like accessible to the elite, because like I'm from a small town, I'm not from Montreal. so I don't get to go to many museums, but I did see a lot of public art in Montreal. And I'm really into observing people because I have a very holistic way of viewing things because I'm an Indigenous artist. And I noticed like people don't really look like when art becomes part of your life. I noticed that people don't really pay attention, or maybe it's just so part of their lives that it doesn't really affect them in that way. But it's just a really interesting thing. And did you like observe people of their reactions of your work, and what did they say about it in the public spaces?
Yeah, like it can be negative comments, of course. Thank you for the question, first of all. Like Johannes said, but sometimes people also, react very positive about it. Like we had this one huge mural that we painted together in Atlantic City, and Atlantic City, I don't know if you've ever been there. It's like a gambling city on the beach next to New York, or like not next to New York, but kind of in the area. And it's a city with a very how do you say that, like very huge differences. So there, on the one hand side, you have the people coming there as tourists gambling, and then you have the city itself that is in quite a bad state, where you see a lot of poverty in the streets, where you see a lot of abandoned houses, people having problems with drug addiction and things like that. And it was like we really felt this responsibility when we painted this big mural of giving something back to those people, not so much to the tourists, but to the community itself, because it felt like, yeah, it's a city that is really having problems. And it was really nice because actually like the most people who talked to us were not the tourists, but for example, a homeless man coming by several times and talking to us a lot. And it was actually interesting, like seeing their reactions, and also seeing what parts of the painting they liked and what parts of the painting they didn't care about, and that there were also certain things that they understood the same way, like we meant them in the painting. It was very interesting, even it was maybe exactly the same point, but when we had like certain gestures or certain images or symbols in there, we're like, oh yeah, this is about like fighting back. I understand that. This is what I like, or something like this. And it was actually quite a beautiful thing to have this experience. Yeah. But it's different everywhere we go. It's always different. Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Hi. This is a bit of a long-winded question, so bear with me. I'm wondering, because also you specifically showed the image of how you go through the process of making a mural with a community. And you kind of showed the schematic or the drawing. And I was wondering how you approach building relationships with people in different communities, considering that you've painted murals all over the world. So going to places like Korea or Atlantic City, and specifically in Montreal right now, there's kind of this conversation of there are certain murals that can be like agents of gentrification that don't consider the community. And then there are muralists that do consider the community and try to bring them into the conversation. And I was wondering how you go about including them in, whether it be the theme of the work that you're making or actually engaging them, because it seems like you've brought it up several times.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of works are just like works where we come there, like works we did, for example, in Serbia, is sometimes that we just go there, we just talk to the owner of the building, and they just say, okay, we would be interested in just paint something. And often they're like very easy, and they're really like, whatever you like, okay. And we show them like a few pictures, and they're like, okay, just do anything. And it's not so much that it comes out of a conversation, out of actually learning from the people there. So like this is also what happens, of course. And I mean, we're very aware of this danger that a mural or an artwork can be used as like just something to foster gentrification or to make a neighborhood nicer. And yeah, it's always a difficulty, especially also if you have graffiti already on the wall, and that you're like, yeah, this kind of ethical question, do we erase that because it's considered ugly, like by a lot of people? while like I have friends, Johannes also has friends who are doing graffiti, who are doing like tagging, like also in an illegal kind of way. And like one of my friends, for example, told me like, I don't care so much if my tags are beautiful or not. I just need to make them. I feel this need because in my neighborhood, I feel there's gentrification going on. I need to show that I'm here. I need to show that this is my city, that this is like a dirty city, and I need to keep it dirty kind of as this act of resistance. And so, I mean, yeah, Johannes has examples where he tries to include the graffiti in his work and not erase it. But yeah, I don't know, like maybe you.
Yeah, I think most was said already. But actually, it's interesting because often you also have been invited to paint in different places, and then there's whole different organizations behind. For example, in Łódź in Poland, they have a huge program where they include the neighbors. Also, before I came there, actually was a collaboration with another artist I haven't known before. So we were collaborating online, sending sketches back and forth and discussing. And then they also invited all the neighbors for a workshop before we came and showed them the motive and discussed with them. And so they really took care or really interested in the opinion of the people around. But then there are others, they just invite the artists. And also to me as an artist, sometimes it's nice if it's like all about what I think and what I want to do and what is best for this wall. But yeah, there's always this tension. I also had one wall where like it was on two sides. The front wall was quite busy. There were lots of windows, so not a lot of wall to paint. So it was just a rough white, say, structure. And the owner of the house, an old lady, she always wanted me to paint the sun in the top part somewhere, but it was tough because it wouldn't have matched at all or fit at all. And also the sun is on the sky already, so we had quite a long talk until it was okay. Yeah, so yeah, sometimes you have to see what your work is about. But yeah, I mean, it's with these walls that there's always like there's something there already, so you always include something, and then yeah, it's always a conversation on a wall.
Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering, you talk a lot about like the relations with your work and with the public, and I was wondering, does that relation, like the comments you receive and everything, does it influence your work? And if yes, how does it change the work you do around the yeah, like the public work you do? How does it influence, if it does?
Actually, I think probably it influences somehow, but I think not in a way that I direct it right away. I mean, also what I've learned is somehow you can do whatever, and there are always people that like it. So I think learning this gave me the freedom to just do what I think is best, or what I think works well.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't really please everyone. So like, even if there are like negative comments, like you kind of have to stick with what you're doing or what you initially planned. And
Well, for me, it was more when there were negative comments that I tried to talk further with these people. Like, for example, like one guy, he was living opposite or just across the street from the wall. He wasn't that happy at first, but also said, yeah, his wife likes it, but he maybe it's something new and he has to learn about first. And also got to talk, and then he showed me he was a pigeon breeder, so he showed me all like the pigeons he's breeding and the system behind. So it didn't change my work, but it brought like new experience and new knowledge.
So I have a question from the Zoom, from Nicole. Nicole asks, your work seems to decentralize the art object through site specificity or response to a place. Are your works always temporary or site specific? Do you view them as inseparable from the context of where they are exhibited? Or are there also instances where creating a more aesthetic art object is still important or relevant to you?
yeah, maybe I first and then Sophia, because yeah, sure, there's different work. Oh no, I forgot what I wanted to say. Yeah. No, with this canvas, also when I paint the wall, it's about aesthetic. It's not just about surrounding everything. Like aesthetic is super important thing. And it goes on.
I mean, I think it's also a very privileged situation to be able to like have something to react to, like to have like something that is given, have architecture, have like a context, a neighborhood that you can react to. It makes it a lot easier to like have ideas or develop ideas around something. I always find, for me at least in my work, it's easier if I have something I can react to and don't have to create something out of the blue. But I think we both have also our individual independent artistic practice that is that it can be shown anywhere, or this made for like white cubes or made for being published in a book or something like this. So I think it's also necessary for us to keep this practice that is independent from spaces, because if not, it would also become difficult to only create works that are site specific.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. I also have another question from the Zoom. This question comes from Shelley. How and why did the two of you start collaborating and in the public art realm?
Actually, our first collaboration was when we both were invited as kind of tutors to an artist residency in Poland. And I was painting walls a lot, so wherever I was back then, I was looking to paint the wall somewhere. And so we painted the wall right on the building of this residency, and Sophia joined in, and we learned it works pretty well. So we went on.
I have a question about, or I guess I'd like to hear more of your thoughts about the role of a curator or an artist, especially since those two roles are so broad and can overlap so much, especially in your work. So some of your work, like the website that came out of the pandemic, was more clearly a curatorial role. But do you view the work that you did, say, with the 20 other artists on a mural as you as a curator? Do you find you're sometimes curating each other in your collaborations? I'd just like to know more of your thoughts about it.
And yeah, maybe I don't even think about it much. It's more if I curate or invite artists, which I think, oh, it would match, it would fit. And then for this wall, I think it wasn't creation at all, because like it was everything out of my hands. I just painted here and there, but like everyone was part of the whole process. And yeah,
it's kind of weird because but what I think is like that in Johannes' work, like it's really a big part, like that the one project he showed is really just one of a lot of projects that he did like all his life. It was always part like of like doing his own work and like curating little shows, little exhibitions, little projects. And I think it's like a ping pong, like it's going back and forth. Like he's doing something and then he has an idea and he shares it with other people, invites other people to this. And I think it's just a very vivid, very organic, also artistic process where, yeah, on the one hand side, like you do your own thing, and then there's always like influences coming from the side. You also bring influences back to your like artistic scene or something like this. And yeah, I think it just works very intuitive. Like a lot of Johannes' work, I think it's also a very intuitive thing that it just happens that he has this idea and then he has to make this project.
Hi. So some of the places that you've been to like do different works and everything, like you've mentioned, have difficult histories or are kind of known for like some pretty troubling things, like the city at the very east of Germany. How does that kind of like influence what you create or like how you create, if anything, and not even just like only kind of those like modern troubling things, but also just like the history of different places that you go to in general? Like, how does that influence the way that you sort of like produce your works?
where I think there's always like a certain responsibility that comes with that. Like if you're aware that this is a place where like horrible things have happened, or where there's like a lot of tension, a lot of difficulties in the community. And it's, I mean, for me personally, it's always something that I also feel is difficult as an artist. Like, do you want to like exploit that story? Because I think there's always this danger of like just like exploiting this dangerous, dark story of this place. Or like, can you do something about it? Can art fix anything? It's always very much a question. I'm not sure if art can really fix anything, but I think what we like to do is like maybe give something back, or maybe like have something of like, I mean, there's always some kind of positive stories, even like in a very strange, very conflictual place. There's always something, some positive stories of solidarity, of resilience, of like, yeah, people not giving up, people like working together and things like that. And we try to highlight those stories, or just like create an artwork that just yeah, like makes a little bit of an interruption in the everyday life. Like when people walk by, they probably won't understand like our abstract painting or what it could mean, or what we thought about it, what we researched, but just like what we're always hoping for, that this just like this tiny interruption in your everyday life that might be kind of sad, kind of stressful, but you just walk by and for a minute you just see this super colorful pink wall and you think about something else. And this is, I think, also something that we really like about working in public.
Hey, thanks for this talk. It's been really informative and inspiring to see the global scale of which you've been working. And yeah, I was thinking about this around what it means for yourselves as artists to go into another community and perhaps represent an experience there that is perhaps, well, actually, I don't know. This is something that I find interesting. And what I'm asking is, how might your own positionality affect what you're producing in various places? You know, like in some ways, creating a painting or this artwork is a personal experience, but you know, through understanding your work here today, I don't feel like I really know who you are as people. And of course, there's like biographical artwork, and I wouldn't describe yours as that. But I'm just kind of curious if that's something you think about in terms of how perhaps your own life experiences affect how you might see the world around you and how you represent it.
Lots of my work is also quite intuitive. So it, especially on canvases, but also for walls, it often happens that they just paint in the process and it changes a lot during the process. So this is maybe where personality comes in. It's not like super visible or super illustrative, but I think that's something. And then also the nice thing about painting in different places is that you don't come as a tourist, but you're always connected to the certain place. You meet the people there and all that.
Yeah, I think like for us, or at least for me, I don't know for Johannes, but for me, it's like that I feel, yeah, I didn't experience, for example, I never experienced racism or something like this. So it is, of course, difficult to talk about something like this, or like in my graphic novel, writing about someone who experienced like, yeah, National Socialism and this horrible extreme persecution. Like, I don't have stories like this in my life. And so it's, of course, it's often like when we go somewhere that also the part is like this part of like getting to know the community and learning about them. I think is very helpful to me to develop an artwork, to like hear the stories of the people where we're going, or to like learn something, even just like from like in Atlantic City, we talked a lot to the team of organizers who knew a lot about the city, who worked with people who were incarcerated at some point in their life. And we met people who had different life experiences. And this was something very important to like learn about this place. And I think that's something that very much adds and helps to our artwork. But then again, like, for example, when we were in this city in the very far east of Germany, in Chemnitz, I also felt that for me, it was very helpful that I also come from the GDR. So like I was actually born before the wall came down in the GDR. And it was a lot easier to talk to people, to be like, I didn't share your experience because I was a little baby, but I know from my parents what it was like, what unemployment felt like. And it's a different way of talking if there's some kind of connection you have. And of course, it can also be very foreign if you come somewhere and you don't share any of the experiences the people there made, of course. Does it answer your question?
Hi. I thank you for your presentation. I think I was seeing all the residencies that you've been to. It really got me thinking about the idea of like hosts and guests. And I can see that with your projects, you kind of are both at the same time, which is really interesting. I guess like recently I've always understood it as being like these two binaries, but it's really interesting to see you kind of like switch between the two depending on like what is needed during your project. Because in a way you're a guest when you go to a new place, but then you're hosting spaces to have conversations with the community that are there. And I'm wondering about kind of any rituals or like things that you've found helpful that you do in these like positions where you've been able to have fruitful like connections or like conversations that like you and your guest end up taking with you after you separate.
Sorry, I didn't get the whole question. So
Oh yeah,
like,
sorry. I
if-
guess I'm
if
just
there's kind of
asking.
ritual
Oh,
that I bring or that I do there, or or-
yeah, I'm just wondering if there's any rituals or methodologies that you've built from your experience, past experiences of like, how do you continue hosting these spaces that are meaningful for you and as well as your guests, and like, yeah, how do you build on those connections after you leave a place?
Maybe the first ritual is to be open and to bring cookies or to yeah. That's yeah. And yeah, then just see see what happens. But, maybe okay, yes, yeah. That's for sure. I'm still like in contact with most of the people where I've been, or there's like often there's like a kind of relationship comes out of this that also that's how things happen. Sometimes we've been in vacation somewhere and met people, and then years later you're still in touch and something turns out. Also the one where I've been to Korea actually came through an artist, like an old lady I met in Berlin, and I was working for her a bit back then, like retouching her photos, and she knew this person from the residency in Korea, and that's how this person in Korea someone saw my work and then invited me. So there's a lot of this back and forth. Maybe
That's great. Thank you.
I'll talk while I walk with the microphone over, but that's a really interesting idea about being host and guest simultaneously and thinking about those two roles like happening at the same time. Anyway.
Hello. You presented your artistic style, Sophia being more figurative and Johannes being more abstract, and how when you're creating a word together it can be challenging. And I was wondering, what are the tactics that you find to combine your styles and make something that works? And also if you have found that maybe the other one style have influenced the way that you will make your art.
I think for us, it was really like this collage technique, like collage in general, I think being something quite contemporary, even if it's like a super old technique. I found it like yeah, researching or finding out like in my studies or wherever about, and just yeah, collage artists, contemporary ones, or people from like the beginning of the 20th century was something was super helpful for us to find a technique to kind of handle this imbalance, and to kind of also, I also am really seeking to kind of interrupt or distract a little bit my figuration and make it a little less narrative through like including the abstract elements and kind of weaving it together, making kind of like a, yeah, like a structure, yeah, that is that also, yeah, tries to like yeah, cut my kind of a figurative narration apart, and yeah, includes more of Johannes elements. But it's, yeah, it's a process. It's every time it's a new process, and it's every time it's a new conversation, a new debate of where is which. And yeah, it's, we don't have like the perfect answer to this.
Yeah. Also, the show we are doing here in Montreal is totally different than what we've done before, because we actually didn't paint at all. Just took some photo, bought an installation. So this is maybe a new step for us also to collaborate on that.
Thank you.
Hi, just one more question. So you guys have talked about like the different spaces and how they affect your work in terms of like public spaces where you're making murals, in terms of maybe more curatorial works where you're bringing them to people's homes, or the online spaces. And I'm curious to know more about your upcoming work and how you talked about, maybe is there a way in which these spaces, like how do they affect different communities that you work within? And is there like a, have you ever thought in the future about like kind of bringing them all together in a way, each individual space? I don't know, I'm just curious.
Actually being together is only happy to talks like this, or through having it all in the book. But yeah, I think bringing it all together, no, it's more because it's all done by us. But
I guess it's just really difficult because it always like speaks to different people. Like, I don't see that like the people you reach through, like, for example, Johannes online exhibition project are definitely not the same people that we reach when we do a mural outside. And I wouldn't have an idea how to bring like this people from who are using this digital space, which is also like, I think, quite a small community who responds to this kind of thing, together with like, yeah, people who just very randomly pass by in the streets in a neighborhood. I don't know. I wouldn't have an answer to this. Do you? I'm sorry. Yeah, it would be great, but we don't know.
First of all, thank you for your talk and coming here today. I have a question for you, Sophia, about your book, Jack and Isaac. Because I grew up in Germany, I now do research on Jewish life in Poland. And it was just very interesting how you approach that, or like your experience of it, because like I grew up with this like German Holocaust memory politics, and I'm trying to like do like kind of emancipate from this whole rhetoric in my research. I was just wondering how you related to the subject, how producing this comic, is it available? I was just very curious.
Thank you for your question. Well, actually, this story came to me not really by accident, because I was working at the time in a memorial site, like in the memorial of a former concentration camp where Isaac blah blah, Jack blah blah, the man I made the book about, was actually imprisoned in the 1930s and 40s, and I just met him. I really met him and started visiting him, and we kind of became friends. And like basically the last 3 years before he died, he was very old, 95. I visited him like every month, and we just had coffee and did like boring grandpa stuff together. And yeah, and for me it was like also very much a question when I did this book, like all this Erinnerungskultur, all this narratives that we have in Germany. about like about the memory of the Holocaust. And I also included passages. I mean, it's a I think 120-page book, so I didn't show them here, where it's about my own reflection on this topic, on like how is it memorialized, what kind of importance does that have in Germany? Like, I have this one episode where we went to Poland to see Auschwitz, and like how it's different in Poland already than it is in Germany, and how people feel about that. And it was really also for me something very, very personal, thinking about this very, very complex history. And yeah, I didn't find a publishing house for it yet. So I just printed it myself. So you can write me and I can send you I can sell you one of the copies, but I didn't get it published yet. Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your really great questions. That was like a fascinating run of different approaches. And thank you both. Sorry, okay. I'm not used to being in physical space yet. I'm still kind of clunky. Thank you so much for your talk. Now, my job is to remind you that there is a vernissage and party at the Museum of Jewish Montreal next Thursday for their exhibition. It starts at 7:30, is that correct? Okay, so everyone is invited to that. And also to please come to the next Seeka Talk, which is me. So I'll look you all in the eye and please come on the 21st of October. So thank you, and please join me in thanking Sophia and Johannes.
Thanks for hosting and taking care.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. Aside from our vernissage, which we are asking people to register for ahead of time, if you can, it's free. It's free, just for checking at the door, you know. Another thing that I wanted to bring up to you, some of you who may be interested, is our upcoming call for microgrant projects. Every year we host a program, Microgrants for Creative or Cultural Exploration. This project provides seed funding to emerging creatives of all types to develop a project with us that is then in turn hosted by the museum as an event as a part of our programming. Recipients are given $800 to $1,200 to see their project come to life. We've produced zines, we've done online cooking workshops, what else have we done? Concerts, plays, and more. You can find the information for those applications on our Instagram at Musée MTL Juif. It's in our link tree, and the application deadline is October 23rd, so you still have some time. That's it. Thank you for coming again. Do you have anything, Alyssa? Okay, thank you.